What's good, Combat Sports fans? You already know it's your boy Bando back at it with another episode of Combat and Kick It. UFC 296 was this past weekend, and it was a phenomenal card to end the year with. And of course, I gotta come through with the review. You know how it goes. You know how the intros of these things go. I say the same shit in the intro. You should be repeating it with me. You should already know it. But either way, UFC 296 was this past weekend. So let's get into this review. Let's go. So, UFC 296 this past weekend, I'm coming through with the review. First, I'm going to start it off with all of my best moments of the night. Performance of the night, knockout of the night, submission, all that, everything, right? So, we'll start it off with fight of the night. Fight of the night was easily Irene Aldana versus Carol Rosa. Now, I already know that got fight of the night with the UFC, so you're probably sitting there thinking like, oh, that's what you took it from. Absolutely not. If anybody watched that fight last night and didn't say that was the fight of the night, I'm not sure what card you were watching. That was a phenomenal fight, back and forth, both women slugging it out. You very rarely get to see two women fight to the point of where they're both bleeding, they're both swollen. Carol Rosa's whole left side of her, I think it was her left side of her face was just swollen. Her eye was swollen, bloodied up. Even Irene Aldana was bloodied up. But Irene came into this fight definitely coming in with a different mindset from losing against Amanda Nunes. She came in, there was no distance involved in her striking. She just said fuck it. She just went right into her range and was throwing her strikes, and Carol Rosa was not backing down. Both women, fantastic jaws, fantastic fight. So definitely fight of the night for that one. Then you got your performance of the night. My performance of the night, I know a lot of people might disagree with them, but I got two going for this one. My performances of the night were Paddy Pimblett and Cody Garbrandt. Paddy Pimblett did exactly what he needed to do to neutralize the craziness of El Cucuy, Tony Ferguson. Look, obviously we know we're not watching the best Tony Ferguson. I'm not going to act like I'm watching this prime El Cucuy or anything like that. I know this isn't the 12 win streak Tony, right? This is a 0-6 going into this fight. Now 0-7, but 0-6 going into this fight, Tony Ferguson. It's not the best version. But what Paddy did very well was he didn't let up in the positions that he had success in. He didn't let up. He was doing really well in the striking category. He was doing really well on the ground. Tony had nothing to throw up for him on the ground. Last time we saw Tony in ground exchanges where he had success was against Kevin Lee. Now, if you really think about that, that was a minute ago. When in terms of Tony Ferguson, you know what I'm saying? Like how many times he's fought since then. So it's sad to see. It sucks to see, but definitely had to give my hats off to Paddy because I thought Paddy fought very well. He came in very prepared, and he fought a good fight. Then you give Cody Garbrandt performance of the night because everybody's always expecting Cody to come in and lose. Bad chin. We know he doesn't have the best chin. This and that. I even expected if Brian landed a clean one because Boom Kelleher. If he landed a clean one, it could have happened. But Cody fought very patient, very good, was clean with his striking. He throws a lot of the same combinations that we've seen in the past from him, but it doesn't really mean much if he's having success. And he had good success in there, staying patient, finding his shots, picking his shots. And I thought he did well. And even saying that, going back to the Paddy Pimblett for 2 seconds, Tony Ferguson fought very well as well. I'm not going to take nothing away from Tony Ferguson because in the same sense as what I was breaking down with Cody, Tony fought very patient, was picking his shots, fighting a little better. But either way, Paddy Pimblett, Cody Garbrandt get my performances of the night. Then you got knockout of the night. I mean, does anybody want to argue this one? It goes to Josh Emmett. This might be knockout of the year. I know it's last minute and it could be very biased. This might be knockout of the year. On the unfortunate circumstances, is not something to like brag about or make it cool, but Josh Emmett knocked Bryce Mitchell out so hard that Bryce Mitchell was having a seizure on the ground. Now, that's fucking scary power. For a man that's 145 pounds to pack that type of punch, that's scary power right there. And he loaded up, cranked back, ducked down through the overhand right and just tagged Bryce right on the face, like perfect, just square right on the face. And yeah, sent him to the shadow realm. And it sucks to see. I like Bryce Mitchell. I like Josh Emmett. I like seeing both of them. I want to see both of them win, but you can't just see both of them win. But beautiful, craziest, nastiest knockout I've seen in a while. That was fucking scary, to be honest with you. I ain't even gonna lie to you. That shit was scary. I packed a cone tonight, so now that shit's gonna fucking... I'm gonna have to spark this 30 times during this episode. But moving on, you got submission of the night. There was only one big submission of the night. Shavkat Rachmanov. And I would have gave it to him anyways because he submitted Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, who's never been submitted before. So that's the first time Wonderboy's ever been submitted, and it was done by Shavkat Rachmanov, who was coming in from, rumor what I was reading, he was coming in on an injury already to begin with. So, you know, shout out to Shavkat. Fought a great fight, did what he needed to do. A lot of clinch work, but ended up getting him down and got the submission. Clean submission, and he'd be the first person to sub Wonderboy. Moving on. Let's get into the whole review of the rest of the card. That's just the performance type things of the night. It was a great night, but let's talk about the rest of the card. So, great card. Like I said, UFC 296 was solid. A lot of good fights. You know I only do the main card when it comes to the review. So, opening the main card, you had Josh Emmett, Bryce Mitchell. Not really going to get deep into that. You already know what happened. Josh Emmett ducked down, overhand right, lands perfectly, knocks Bryce Mitchell out in one of the scariest fashions. But the question is, what's next for Josh Emmett? Right? Josh Emmett was coming into this fight 0-2 against two top guys. Wasn't even supposed to be fighting Bryce Mitchell. Was originally supposed to fight Giga. So, big win. Huge win. But where does Josh Emmett go from here? It's a tough call. I would say maybe try to run that Giga one back. Or maybe, just maybe, the man possibly could have earned himself a little fight against somebody like, I don't even know. Honestly, he should be fighting somebody like Arnold Allen. I don't know why Arnold Allen's fighting Movsar Evloev. That shouldn't even be a fight. Arnold Allen should definitely be somewhere fighting with Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett maybe could work his way up to a Max Holloway fight. That would be the biggest fight of his career. And if he could do that, that'd be wild. But yeah, that was an amazing knockout. There's nothing else I can really say. It was an amazing knockout. See? I told you. I wonder how many people that actually watch this are sparking up. Look, I know. The man's got to smoke every video. Yeah, I fucking do. It's part of the flow. Combat and kick it. This is the kick it part. Either way, moving on. Tony Ferguson, Paddy Pimblett. You already know Paddy Pimblett got the one-sided decision. He did everything he needed to do to neutralize Tony Ferguson. Tony had nothing for him. Tony landed some nice jabs. He was picking his shots early. He was being more patient. Kind of pushing the pace, but not like over pressuring. Not like an old school Tony Ferguson. He was just doing enough to keep Paddy on his back foot. And he was landing good jabs, landing good 1-2s. But Paddy was doing good with the leg kicks, body kicks, being able to get Tony back away from it. And once he fully cracked Tony with a good shot, it made a big difference. The thing about Tony now, which sucks to say, the man's taking so much damage in his career, every shot looks like it affects him. Even if it's not hurting him the way that we think, it looks like it affects him. So he's not taking shots the same way that he once did. And that's the toughest part about it. Watching him in there, you know you're watching it sucks. I don't want to call him a washed up Tony Ferguson, but it's not. It's not the El Kukui that we're used to. We know this already. We know this going into it, right? But we still have this hope that he can come in and grab a win and get a win, especially over a guy like Paddy Pimblett. But there's things about Tony that he had so much success within that 12-fight win streak that he no longer has. And it's not the skill, it's just like the bounce. The bounce in his step, the movement, the speed. He looks slower, he looks labored. It sucks to see. It's one of all of our favorite fighters. I think everybody loves to watch Tony Ferguson fight, but you ain't seeing what Tony once was. And you know, I kind of want to see him retire, man. Like don't continue to damage your career and your legacy to try to prove that you can get a win. You're in the hardest division in the world. Literally, the hardest division in the world. Anything around 135 to 170 is some of the hardest divisions in all of combat sports. It's some of the most stacked talent that you can come across. So it's tough, man. Once it hits that point where, not that you're too old, but it's showing in your performances that probably the best thing is to retire. I'd rather see Tony retire than the UFC cut him. You know what I'm saying? Just takes away from that legendary status, man. It really does. So I'd rather just see him retire and ride off into the sunset with nothing taken away from what he did. We all saw what Tony did in those fights. We all know what Tony would have done to these guys that he's lost to in his prime. I mean, Justin Gaethje might be the only one, and Charles Oliveira, that would give Tony an actual problem in his prime. But all these other guys, Bobby Green, Beneil Dariush, Paddy Pimblett, he would have been slicing and dicing these dudes up prime time with no chance of them coming back. But either way, moving on, you got Shavkat and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Shavkat got the big win, big submission win. Like I said, submission of the night. It was more boring than what I expected. I thought Shavkat was going to stand and bang a little bit more, but Wonderboy looked like Wonderboy. But Shavkat is powerful, and he has different positions that he's good in, and up against the cage, in the clinch. Wonderboy was backing up a lot of times, and I saw when he was backing up that, Shavkat's going to shoot. He's going to shoot. He doesn't shoot low, he shoots high. Shoots high, grabs that like high clinch, and he it's not like the Thai clinch, but he just clinches up, gets the underhooks, and he's just working, trying to find a way to get you down. And he got Wonderboy down, got him in an uncomfortable position, and ended up getting the submission. So, not much to say about it. That was pretty much the fight. There's not much to break down. Wonderboy was landing a couple good side kicks. I think if he would have thrown more side kicks, he would have had some success keeping Shavkat away from him, staying in the middle, keeping his back off the cage. But what are you going to do when you have a guy like Shavkat, 17-0 going into this fight, 17 finishes, 17 wins, 17 finishes? Like, clearly he's fucking good. Clearly he's fucking strong. He's powerful. And like I said, he was apparently going in with some sort of injury already. So, surprisingly, continued to take the fight and went through the fight, and he did his thing. He did his thing. Even with an injury, couldn't strike a lot, couldn't throw many kicks. He did what he needed to do to beat Wonderboy. And being the first person to ever submit Wonderboy, that's a huge feat. That's a huge feat. So Shavkat moves to 18-0 now. Who's next for Shavkat? That's a big question. I think Shavkat and Usman could be interesting. Obviously, you got Bilal's probably going to be next for the title. I don't see anybody else. Maybe you make we just had an announcement for UFC 299 that Gilbert Burns is fighting Jack Della Maddalena, so that's another guy in your top 5 that's taken out. So who does Shavkat fight? I don't even know. I don't even know who you put him up against at 170, because Colby's going to duck that fight. Colby's not going to take that fight. Colby even said he's not going to take that fight. Colby said he wants Wonderboy, which is like, all right, now you're just trying to find something that can draw. But listen, dog, that ain't no pay-per-view. That's a free fight night. So at the end of the day, that's not much bigger than drawing anything else. And he don't want no problems from Shavkat, clearly. So if Hamzat takes a 170, could be Shavkat versus Hamzat. But I don't see that happening. I see Hamzat staying at 180. That's going to be his home. Or 185 or whatever. But damn, that's tough. There's like really nobody for Shavkat to fight unless you just elevate him straight into the title picture. Or you make him and Bilal a number 1 contender, which would be wild, but could do that. I don't know. There's really nobody else for Shavkat to fight. That's fucking wild. That's crazy. Besides that, you go into the co-main event. You had Alejandro Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. Fight wasn't as exciting as I thought it was going to be, but it was good. It was good. It was back and forth. First round, heavy pace for Pantoja. Heavy pace. Was putting it on Royval quick. I was like, okay, shit, he might get an early finish. He was taking Royval down at will. Like, there was no struggle from Royval. There was no fight back. There was nothing. Pantoja was getting him down easy as can be. Easy as can be. Easy as can be. It was a fantastic performance for the first 3 rounds for Pantoja. And then he started slowing down. He started gassing out. He would continue to get takedowns, but the takedowns weren't effective because he wasn't doing anything with them because he was so gassed. He was like using the takedowns in a lot of moments of the fight to just rest, which I get it. People are going to do that. It's a high-paced fight. 125ers, they're constantly moving, constantly going back and forth. But he definitely was taking moments off the fight by taking them down, holding them down, getting a quick rest, then doing whatever. But Brandon Royval was doing good. He did good in 4 and 5. He was striking better. He was trying to actually, get something going from the judges, I'm sure, trying to make them see something. He was throwing a lot more volume, but it just wasn't it wasn't damaging. It wasn't damaging to Pantoja. If Pantoja would have lost that fight, he would have beat himself because he gassed himself out. But he was doing everything he needed to do to win. Like, he went in there. We already seen him finish Royval by submission once, so he went in there and attempted to do it again. Like I said, I predicted and had a feeling that he was gonna do that. Go in there and just immediately go to the way that he knew he's won in the past, so he can do it again. And I thought that's what he was gonna do, and he did. And Royval had great defense. He had good ground defense. The only defense he did not have was takedown defense. He was getting taken down at will. Like, I don't know if Pantoja is that strong or if it's Brandon Royval just was neglecting the defense, or that's just is his defense is just go to his back and try to pull guard and work from the guard. I mean, he's a squirmy dude. He was working like to get out a lot of the times. There was really tough positions to get out of where I thought Pantoja was going to end up getting a submission, and Royval got out of it. So, interesting. It was an interesting fight. It was good. It was back and forth. Pantoja, like I said, very high pace though, man. Very high pace. Those first 3 rounds, very high pace. I think as a champion, knowing that you got 5 rounds, when you're fighting guys like Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval, maybe a guy like Kai Kara France, like, you don't need to rush for the finish against these guys. These guys are going to be tough dudes to finish. So if you can end up being the one to gas them out through those 3 and take over in 4 and 5, you're the champion, man. It always looks better on the judges' scorecard. And the way that Pantoja fights, he fights very aggressive. There's a lot going on in his style. So even when he's not landing, it almost looks like he's landing type of thing. Like, he's putting pressure on people always. I fuck with the style of him. I really do fuck with his style. But Brandon Royval did good. I thought he did good enough. Besides the takedown defense, everything else he did very well. He's meant to be at the top of the division. He's going to give a lot of other guys problems. But last night was Pantoja's night. What are you going to do? So Pantoja and still. So he's the first one to keep the belt of the night. And then you move on to the main event. Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. It was a one-sided affair. Colby Covington. What the fuck, dog? What was that? I thought Leon did fantastic. Honestly, I think he did everything he needed to do in terms of keeping Colby away from his legs, not allowing him to shoot, not allowing him to put the pressure. There was literally no chain wrestling from Colby. I don't know if that was because of the striking of Leon. Leon was throwing a lot of kicks. I don't know if maybe that was it. There was so much damage in those leg kicks that Colby couldn't shoot well enough, couldn't get no pressure off. But Leon did fantastic. He really did. I mean, he did. It's boring in a sense, but it's efficient, right? It's the Israel Adesanya type of style. It could be boring, but it's efficient. A knockout may come, but it's slow paced. You might be seeing a guy point fight for 5 rounds, basically. He was landing tons of leg kicks. He was tearing Colby's leg up. I like that Leon was working the wrestling, working the ground game, working better positions, even putting Colby down on his back a couple times, trying to just establish like that he is an all-around MMA fighter. He's skilled, just as skilled as anybody else, and he's a champion for a reason. And I fuck with that. I really do like when fighters come out and do that. But man, I really want to see Leon get a finish. And that's not because of my prediction of him saying that, or me saying that I want to see him get a submission. Because there was a moment where it looked like he either had like a guillotine or a darce. It was close. And Colby did a barrel roll out of it and ended up getting out. And When you saw the way that Colby had to get out of that, you knew that it was deep. It was dangerous. It was close. I'm sitting there like, I told you. I told you. I told you I wanted it to happen so badly. But he fought so good when it comes to just keeping one, the takedown defense was good. So that's key when fighting a guy like Colby, is to be able to keep that fight on the feet. He completely froze Colby when it came to the striking. Colby's already a pretty flat-footed striker to begin with. So when you're popping those leg kicks, and you saw the damage on his legs, so you knew it was doing damage. I don't think Colby can get the same, power and push and everything off of that leg. And I think it really froze him. I don't think there was really any ring rust. I don't know why he would have said ring rust. And then, see, the thing about Colby that confuses me is the man will, like, I get shit talking, I get selling a fight, but you're after the fight now and you're saying this was the easiest fight of your career. I don't know if he was saying going into this fight he believed it was the easiest fight, or he really thought that it was the easiest fight. He thought he won the fight. He thought he said I didn't even get touched. Meanwhile, man's is bleeding from his nose and has a bruise the size of an elephant on his leg. And my man is saying that he didn't even get touched. I'm like, okay, all right, bro. You got beat. I mean, it wasn't Leon's greatest performance. The 5th round was fucking lackluster as can be. Leon needs to step the fuck up in those last rounds. That, like, I saw moments where Leon's like showing that he's champion, that he's more dominant, that he's better, but in the 5th round, my man's just trying to coast. It's the same thing he did against Nate Diaz. He tried to coast and he got clipped against Nate Diaz. You cannot coast. Not as a champion, you cannot coast, right? I think it's the same thing that Usman, and Usman really didn't coast against Leon when he got knocked out, but he didn't pressure him. He didn't put him up against the cage. He stayed in the middle with him. He stood in the pocket with him and allowed striking to happen. He didn't just work him up against the cage, put him in the positions that were winning him the fight. Leon was doing some really strange stuff in the 5th round. With the grappling exchanges. I would have liked to see Leon just put the pressure on in the 5th round. I think Colby had nothing for it on the striking, and if you avoid any ground exchange, any type of shooting, any type of clinching, any type of ground exchange at all, it would have been a damaging 5th round if Leon would have just went out with some aggression. I don't think Colby had any answers on the feet at all, and that's the thing. I thought Leon could get a finish. There was a moment where they were on the ground, they got up and they broke, and Leon threw a head kick, high left head kick, wrapped right around the head, hit Colby back right like that, right, like kind of in a bad spot, right, but he didn't follow up, right. I'm the couch guy. I'm just the couch guy, right. I'm not in there. I'm not the one doing what they're doing at that moment, but you do see certain things, right, and you watch a guy like Pantoja, granted 125, but you watch a guy like Pantoja who doesn't take his foot off the gas, right? He's just continuously going, continuously pressing forward. If he landed something damaging, he's trying to follow through and finish the fight. I felt like there was moments that Leon could have really put the pressure on and maybe not finished Colby, but made, hurt Colby. He could have hurt Colby. I think he could have put some damage to Colby, but he didn't. But it is what it is. He got the win, all 5 rounds. I mean, except maybe 4-1. I mean, I don't know. The last round was just terrible. It was just a pitiful last round, and he can't be doing that as champion. It's going to be a lot different if he's fighting guys like Bilal or Shavkat, where they're going to continue to press the pace, even through those rounds that he's coasting. He cannot coast. He's got to snap out of that, though. He cannot coast. I would love to see Leon become more of a finisher. He doesn't have that like one punch KO power. His legs are nasty, but just a little bit more pressure. Just a little more pressure. He's very slow on the draw, but he's reading everything. That's why he's such a good striker. That's why he's so accurate. But little more pressure, man. Little more pressure. But overall, that's my review for UFC 296. I won nothing with the parlays. That shit happened. Look, I even did this. I did this one for Instagram. I had Casey O'Neill, Cody Garbrandt, and Irene Aldana for my prelim parlay. So, switch Casey O'Neill to Ariane Lipsky, we would have been good. Then for the main card, I have Bryce Mitchell, Pantoja, and Leon Edwards. You switch Bryce Mitchell to Josh Emmett, and we would have been good. One off, though. That shit happens. Shit happens. One off on each of them. It happens. Can't be perfect on all of them. But make sure to continue to pay attention, because I'm telling you, I might miss some, but I don't miss all. Remember that. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell notification button if you like this episode. You already know that's how the YouTube shit works. I appreciate you guys for listening to this, watching this. If you enjoy any of the content, I really do appreciate your support. Make sure to follow me on Instagram too. You know, do a lot of stuff on Instagram, or I attempt to do a lot of stuff on Instagram. So it's Combat and Kick It. Same on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Add me on the socials. Chat to me. Let me know your predictions, all your parlays. I want to know all your fight stuff. Let's break stuff down together. All right, let's bring the whole fight community into this page. But just make sure before you click out of this, you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell notification button. And I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.